the U.S. fell at the final hurdle, Jalil. You had mentioned at the top a month ago that what you expected or what you wanted to see from the U.S. men's national team was a win, because that would let you know they're on the right path. They get to the final. They have the lead early. They can't hang on. Full marks, full credit to Mexico. They did very, very well. Javier Guerre is a very good coach. So as we put a bow and we have the final word on the U.S. men's national team Gold Cup performance, what do you think about the final? And what do you also think about this entire 6-week period in which we've been able to digest and consume this national team from A to Z?
The final had World Cup vibes. The final had that intensity that we typically see from US Mexico, typically see from the Gold Cup finals. It also had the inspiration that all of us have been looking for from a fan perspective, from people that are very closely woven in with the group. It was good. It was good. And it was a good learning experience, which is very clear. I think that a lot of players made extremely strong cases for themselves to now either be heavily considered to be on the World Cup squad. Some of them, in my opinion, probably locked up a spot on the World Cup squad. And that, to me, on an individual standpoint, has been really awesome to see. Guys like your Diego Lunas, your Patrick Ajimongs, Max Arfston, of course, Alex Freeman, Sebastian Berhalter. Every single time a player is either on the outside looking in or whatever it is, you want to make the decisions for the coach so difficult that it's like, yo, which way do they go? And again, I feel like a lot of players have done that, and those are just a few that I named, but those are the marquee ones, I would say, that had extremely strong Gold Cups. And above all, from a macro standpoint, all the noise that was going into this whole camp is drowned out in silence because of what the players did and because of the way they went about the Gold Cup and came together as a group. And that's, for me, what you always want. You always want the group to be the ones that are dictating the narrative and no one else. And that's what the team was able to take hold of. And that, in the way that they did it, with fight, with grit, determination, scoring different types of goals, coming through the semifinal in penalties and showing character. Those are things that Americans can get behind, that can solidify the fan base. And I feel like if there was one thing that is taken away from the Gold Cup final, is that now there is no excuse for the fans to be behind this group. And we need to continue to support them as they are going into some of the most important 10 months of a lot of these young men's lives. So they need our support. They got mine, that's for damn sure. And I know they got yours.
100, say less, as the kids would say. I'll add, Jalil, a couple things. One, 40 plus days together. To me, this is when we can start to really, with a proper sample size, judge Pochettino. He kept his group together, energized. Everyone knew their role, from the players that were going to be first choice 90-minute players to the players that didn't get a chance to play but had to compete and stay fit. He did a good job of that. He did a great job of that. So we can give him full marks for that, because getting to a final, navigating the team transitions and all the different things that go into it, credit to everyone at U.S. Soccer, people behind the scenes like a Tom King, for example, people just doing the work to get their team there to the final. So I think that says a lot. And for me, it shows that he can get a group together, right? And he kept the main thing the main thing. And I think so now I feel like we can judge him on what he's done based on this. And now what has he learned about the setup? Because before we were just dating, hey, we're here in town for a couple of weeks, we're out. They just live together now. They just moved in, Pochettino and the U.S. men's national team. It's real now.
Said we were just dating, talking about who's gonna cover the bill.
Yeah, who's covering the bill? Who's doing the dishes? Who's doing the laundry? Who's changing the sheets? All these things we know now. And now I think we can judge him from a coach and a manager who was able to keep his team together, keep the staff energized, the clarity of the roles. Moving forward, the next real test will be how much can he maintain the resonance of this with the players that have put themselves out, because this is really more about who played themselves out more than it is play yourself in, really. That's just the reality of
You
it.
think so?
I do, because we're going to talk about the players like Sebastian Berhalter, Alex Freeman, who I think clearly made the most of these clear opportunities to step up and be a part of this group moving forward, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also everyone had that opportunity as well, for the most part. So it's going to be really, who does that staff feel like sort of made that cut, that they can say, okay, and how do we mix that in with our first team players? You and I have been playing this game for a minute in terms of going back to the beginning of the year, when I was in Europe back in March, and we talked about who was already on the bus for 2026. And we had CP, we had Jedi, we had Wes, we had Tyler Adams, Chris Richards, now firmly, clearly part of that mix as well. Is there a player from this Gold Cup that you think is like, we could see them actually in the 11 coming 2026?
Ajimon.
Yep, I agree.
Because there still hasn't been another 9 that has emerged since before the last World Cup, that has put the flag in the dirt and said, this is mine. And he's been the most consistent 9, and seems to be Pochettino's most relied upon 9 as well. So it seems like it's his spot for anyone else to either take back or take from him in general. That's just overall where I'm at with that. I think the other players that had very strong Gold Cups, it's like you got first choice players in front of you in those spots, and there isn't anything that would suggest, as
Right.
well as Alex Freeman has stepped onto the scene, that he's going to take a spot from Dest, or Max Arfson has been doing his thing. Shout out UC Davis, shout out Columbus Crew, but you're not teething that spot off Anthony Robinson. So
That's right.
and when you look at Sebastian, he's balling too, and had a very strong Gold Cup and doing amazing things with Vancouver, but he's not going to be ahead of Weston, or there's the midfield the midfield is crowded there, but making strong cases for all the other ones, absolutely. I think if the World Cup were to start today, Ajimang is the clear 9.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I had not heard that perspective. That you're right. He is the one of one that's navigated, right? He's the version of Ricardo Pepi before the last cycle. We haven't had a real striker sort of come through, and a lot of rumors about a move to the English Championship. We'll see if that happens or not. We'll see if that happens before he even gets to Austin for the All-Star game as well, because that'd be a great opportunity for him just to be in the mix and get his love and his shine. But certainly I think he did a fantastic job. The last thing I will touch on, I think from a player perspective, I thought Diego Luna, of course, had a great tournament and became the kind of it guy, but he's obviously going to be a player that if CP is right, he's not wearing that 10 ahead of Christian, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see who maintains their form, who stays healthy, and who is able to have the right mentality and mindset over the next few months. Speaking of right mentality and mindset, in terms of, I think, a player who made the most of his opportunities in goal, I think Matt Freese, after I think not sure if he was the number one, he feels like the number one right now. What are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I think he definitely elevated his stock, and throughout the Gold Cup, the struggles for the homie Turner continue, unfortunately. I think for him, it's just going to be about getting into an environment where he can play consistently going into the World Cup, and then see where things change from there, if at all. But Freeze, he's been balling for a minute, and I like what he did in terms of taking his opportunity. We talk a lot about, Gold Cup being a month-long tournament, and typically it has ebbs and flows from individual performances, and you have to pull yourself out of some situations that maybe you even dig yourself into, and Freeze falls right into that category. Giving up the unfortunate goal, trying to play out of the back, that's where you can find players crumble, and especially a goalkeeper. But he completely flipped the script, and I don't want to say single-handedly, but if he's not in goal and doesn't have the performance that he has in the penalty kick shootout, they crash out in the semis. So
That's right.
it's always, players have the opportunity to become heroes so long as they're continuing to play after they mess up. And he did an excellent job to stay mentally resolute and flip the script. And for me, he's the number one right now. The conversation is a little bit weird, though, because of Turner's situation. What does Zach Steffen look like in terms of his health moving forward? I think it could definitely still be considered up for grabs.
Well, like I say, I have a couple of really, really nice bags, but there's one bag I prefer a little bit more than the other one, and it gets all the reps and all the trips. And
It's
Matt
Louis or
Freeze
what?
just had
What's the bag? Is Louis? Is Coach? Is
Matt
Target
Freeze,
brand? What?
even if even if Stephon Fry, or excuse me, and shout out to the homie Stephon Fry, but if Zach Steffen comes back, he's going to have to be the guy to knock out the champ, right? Because Freeze has just had a wonderful tournament, and that's going to stay in the back of the staff's mind in terms of what he's capable of. But we shall see. A lot can happen between now and then, and it'll be fun to see how it shakes out. But congrats, they made it to the final. They didn't get it done, but they certainly turned down the temperature and turned off the noise around this team, which was unthinkable a handful of weeks ago.
100%. And just to jump in real quick,
Yes.
you inadvertently mentioned Stephen Fry.
Yep.
Shout out to him. Glad to see that he's back on the mend. Send out a very heartfelt message thanking everybody for reaching out to him. For those who are unaware, he took a very unfortunate collision in their game last weekend at home against the Columbus Crew. Thoughts, of course, with the homie Stephen Fry. He's one of the best to ever do it as far as wearing a Sounders kit, being with the team now since 2014. Shout out, Steph. Glad to see that you're back on the mend, my bro.
Take a look, I'm shining. Moonwalk, keep both feet gliding. I'm up now, great timing. When I was down, was you riding for me? When I was down, was you riding for me? Was you riding for me?